So we're going to examine the development of one of the main protagonists of this movie, which is Superman, also truly known as Kal-El. That's his real name, and his adopted name is Clark Kent. This character really does develop in this movie even further, even though I must admit that there isn't a lot of viewing from his perspective. What we see mostly is the world's perspective of him. But this character still develops in this movie, even though I do agree with critics to some degree that this character wasn't as developed, say, as a Batman or even a Lois Lane in this movie, even a Lex Luthor. So we're going to go into this character, and the important thing for people to realize, because this movie is really all about Superman and his philosophy. But before we go into this very complex character, because this is an incredibly complex character to play, and people do not know, to pull off Superman is no easy feat, because you're coming from the perspective of someone who has lived among people, but yet you are not one of them. So how do you represent humanity? And it's the irony of the name, Superman. You know, Superman. He's where is the man in this super being? And so this is what this movie seeks to highlight, and it's brilliant because the whole theme of the movie is encapsulated in Superman. So let's start off by saying, before I can even go into a whole bunch of other things, that this movie mainly looks at other people's perceptions of Superman, and not so much about Superman's perceptions of the world. This is almost an inverse way of looking at a main protagonist, and this is different to other movies where usually they let you see the protagonist's perspective and lead you along those lines. The one main protagonist, there are two or three main protagonists in this movie. Okay, Lex Luthor. I'm sorry, protagonists. You have Lois Lane, you have Superman, and you have Batman. These are the three main protagonists. And of the three, two main protagonists are at odds with each other for a good period of the film. In fact, for 2/3 of the film, two major protagonists are against each other. And this is typical of Zack Snyder. Zack Snyder really likes to enjoy making you understand both sides of a story, and also he likes to not just give you an evil person because they're evil, or a good person so you can say, this is the good guy, this is the bad guy. You may say that by the end of the film, but you're not going to say it in the beginning. He's going to keep the lines so that you can understand and sympathize with both sides of the story. Okay? And he wants to do that because he realizes that life is not as cut and dry like that. You can look at it, that's an evil person, and that's a good person. It doesn't work like that, right? So I really like what Zack Snyder was doing in this movie for that reason. But let's go into the character of Superman. How is Superman developed from Man of Steel? Well, Superman, first of all, has to come to terms with the fact that no matter how much good you do in this world, to instill hope in it, a lot of evil comes out also as a result of you doing good. And sometimes the harder you try to do good so that you could feel good inside, is the more evil that might happen. And this is so true about life, especially for leaders. If you become a leader, everyone's rooting for you while you're going up the ladder to become a leader. But once you become a leader, everyone attacks you. Well, not everyone, but a lot of people become negative towards you because of the expectations of people. And you may do one good act and a lot of evil may be said about it. But in this case, what Superman was wrestling with in this movie, as he tried to instill hope, was not people's view of him. Since he's a child, people have been antagonistic towards him, have not fully understood him. He didn't have a problem with that. He had a problem with the fact that the more he tried to do good, was the more evil seemed to be happening. And this culminated in the courtroom scene, or in the hearing scene, where Senator Finch, who seemed to be a very principled person, was destroyed amongst other senators and amongst numerous amounts of people in this Capitol building, in this building in Congress. And this disaster, as Superman saw it, he could not prevent it. And Superman's dilemma, this character, you could see this character evolving as he now faces this dilemma. No matter how much good you may do in this world, it may not change, because evil may come to offset the good and balance it out. And the same dilemma that Clark Kent was facing, or Superman, is the same dilemma that Batman was facing. And Batman's answer to that solution was to try harder, to force the world into submission, right? That was his philosophy. Lex Luthor's philosophy is, if it's going to be this way, then let's hasten it to its conclusion. Superman's way was to, first of all, go into an escapist mode, to not address the situation. So he gave up on being Superman for a moment as he engaged with Lois Lane. I already explained the relationship he had with Louis Lane. That Louis Lane was his savior, that Louis Lane was his world, and Louis Lane was the portal through which he truly could communicate with the essentially good elements of mankind. And this is how he formed his bond, his trust with mankind, through Louis Lane. Even more than his bond with his mother, okay? And you know Superman's bond with his mother is insane because, you touch his mother and he could kill you, right? But Louis Lane, he had even a closer bond with Louis Lane because he was almost constantly a shadow protector of him. She was so precious to him and the ideals of mankind that she held within her that he subliminally and psychologically became her protector. He never stayed too far away from her. He was always there like her guardian angel watching. Some people would say he's stalking her. and I guess you don't exactly have a bad case there. But he was like a guardian angel trying to protect her. And he never stayed very far enough away from her so that he couldn't reach her and protect her. And he was very much in tune with Louis Lane. I'd say he's more in tune with Louis Lane than he was to his mother. It's like she almost replaced his mother in terms of connection, even though he's connected to his mother still. So in this movie, Superman connects back with Louis Lane in a much more substantive way by reflecting on this dilemma where you seek to do good in this world and it seems as though more evil comes out of it. And he's able to connect with Louis Lane, who believes in what his purpose is, who believes and supports what he is trying to do in this world. And her sincere hope and aspiration is for him to actually lift the world and inspire it, as he has inspired her. And also, she sees not only this as precious, but she's willing to protect it and keep his identity, who he is, a secret. So she keeps that balance between what Clark's father was trying to do, and she also keeps the balance between what Clark's real father from Krypton, who she met and spoke with, was also trying to actualize a Clark Kent, aka Kal-El, aka Superman. So Superman values that as very precious, and he heads back to continue being this symbol of hope for mankind. And as he's heading back with his answer in his mind, Louis Lane is in trouble, and so he immediately is able to reach on the scene, coincidentally at the right moment, to protect her again. And by protecting her, and you see his emotions, how he feels about her, he again is able to refocus on what is really important about mankind. And basically, his reason for saving mankind is encapsulated in Louis Lane, and that's why he said, "You are my world." And we really see that really developed in this film to a very high extent. And basically, from there on in, as I said, he has a symbiotic relationship with Louis Lane. You see the character now become one in which he's willing to take on the sacrifice of moving forward and doing good, irregardless of what consequences come. And he's willing to deal with the consequences of doing good on all levels. And because he now has that hope that the better good will come out of it. And this is something now that radiates towards everyone around him. Batman feels it. Louis Lane feels it. Wonder Woman feels it. The world feels it when he commits this one act of sacrifice that costs him his life. And Lex Luthor even feels it. And so basically you see the epitome of hope. And you know what's interesting about this story, which to me is basically reflective of life? This story, some people say it's a joyless film. I don't know about it being joyless. What I can tell you is that it fills me with great joy and satisfaction to see a film basically epitomize on Easter the basic precepts of the Christian religion, but also the basic precepts of all religions. Religion was put in place, whether it's atheism or humanism or Greek philosophy or Judaic philosophy or the Eastern culture philosophy. All of them are there to raise mankind's understanding of himself and elevate himself and give him hope in this world, especially against the difficulties of life. And I think this film encapsulates what I heard a gentleman online talking about, that you can be Superman. I can be Superman. We all can be Superman. We can instill, we can brighten the corner where we are. We can instill hope in people around where we are. We can inspire people to be better people. And I think that's the principle of this film. You saw it encapsulated in the death of Superman, where people were saying, just look around you. Superman is not dead. And that theme is powerful, because if we use our gifts and our lives to inspire people to be better, then we are actually letting Superman live among us. And that's the Christocentric theme. That is the core of Buddhism. That is the core of Hinduism. That is the core of Islam. That is the core of all of the major religions in the world today. The whole purpose is for mankind to be elevated, to be inspired. And I remember Jor-El saying to Kal-El, one day they will join you in the sun. And this was that day. And that's how powerful this character was by sacrificing himself. So some people say, well, why did Superman have to die? That was a bummer. Well, it was a bummer, but yet it was a gift to the world. It brought the world together. And because of this sacrifice for a threat that was going to destroy the world. And this is the basic theme of all religions. This is why religions are there to tell you what to do and what not to do, because the whole idea behind the theme is this gnosis that we can be better. And that's what Batman was encapsulating at the end of the movie. He took on, Batman became Superman, in that he was saying, we as human beings, we have all these terrible things about ourselves, but we have the potential to be better. And we need to be better to continue on as a people, as mankind. And it's a beautiful, beautiful theme in this story. And I think that even the movies upcoming will explore this little sub-elements of this as well. I think most of the movies that we're going to see this year are team movies, team-building movies, how to work together. And in the comics, that is. And so this theme is being explored. Of course, we know, therefore, that Superman became the core of Batman. This is the first time we're seeing on the screen a Batman that actually is reflective and espouses and has adopted Superman's way of thinking. This is going to be a more hopeful Batman. He's still going to be one who's not going to take chances. He's going to investigate everything. He's going to research every person. But this Batman has been transformed. And Superman lived on in this Batman, where he's inspiring Wonder Woman to work together with him and with mankind to be able to form a group so that they could stave off any other threats to mankind, which may be great threats from outside or inside of the world. I thought it was just brilliant. And Batman is a symbol of justice, of course. So we have justice with hope. So that's my take on Superman. Yes, huge protagonist in this movie, and one who was operating throughout. The theme of hope was throughout this movie.